You speak of rebuilding your life as though it were a decoration project, as though you could simply rearrange the furniture of your habits and everything would be different. But rebuilding requires demolition. It requires you to stand honestly before the wreckage of who you have become and stop making excuses for why you are there. The year ahead will not save you. Time does not redeem a man. A new calendar does not change a corrupt heart, a lazy mind, or undisciplined hands. If 2026 is to be different, then you must be different. Not in your words, not in your intentions, but in the secret places where no one applauds you and no one corrects you. You must learn to hate what has ruined you. Hate the excuses you rehearse. Hate the compromises you protect. Hate the half-hearted effort you call trying. Until you see these things as enemies, you will keep inviting them back into your life and wondering why nothing changes. You say you want a new life, but you cling tightly to the very patterns that destroyed the old one. You want peace without discipline, strength without sacrifice, progress without pain. It does not work that way. Every meaningful life is built on obedience to truth, not feelings. Feelings will betray you every morning you wake up tired, unmotivated, and tempted to quit. Truth demands that you rise anyway and do what is right. Rebuilding means taking responsibility. No more blaming your past, your parents, your circumstances, or the cruelty of the world. Many have suffered worse than you, and yet refuse to let suffering define them. Responsibility is the moment you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What must I do now?" It is the moment you accept that your life is shaped far more by your daily choices than by your dramatic moments. Look honestly at how you spend your time. Look at what you feed your mind. Look at the people you allow to influence you. These are not small matters. They are the bricks of your future. You cannot build a disciplined life while consuming chaos. You cannot pursue holiness while entertaining corruption. You cannot claim you want change while repeatedly choosing comfort. There is a cost to rebuilding that most people are unwilling to pay. You will have to say no when it hurts. You will have to walk away from relationships that drag you backward. You will have to endure seasons where obedience feels dry and unrewarding. But understand this: the pain of discipline is always less than the pain of regret. Do not wait for motivation. Motivation is a servant, not a master. Act first. Rise early. Work diligently. Speak truthfully. Serve faithfully. When you fall, do not wallow in self-pity. Get up, confess your failure, correct your course, and continue forward with humility. A rebuilt life is not marked by perfection, but by perseverance. If 2026 is to be a year of rebuilding, then let it be a year of deep, quiet transformation, not the kind that seeks attention, but the kind that withstands storms. Strip your life down to what matters. Build on truth. Build with discipline. Build with fear and trembling toward what is right. And when the winds come, and they will, what you have built will stand because it was forged in obedience. Not emotion. True rebuilding requires honest destruction and responsibility. And this is the truth most people spend their entire lives running from. They want restoration without repentance, growth without grief, renewal without ruin, but nothing lasting is ever built on denial. You cannot repair what you refuse to acknowledge is broken. You cannot heal what you keep defending. The first act of rebuilding is not construction. It is confession. It is standing still long enough to see the damage clearly, without excuses, without blame, shifting, without soft language that turns sin into weakness and laziness into personality. Honest destruction means you stop romanticizing your past. You stop telling stories that make you look like a victim when you were actually a participant. You stop pretending that your failures were unavoidable when, deep down, you know they were the result of repeated choices. This kind of honesty is violent to pride. It strips you of your self-made narratives and leaves you exposed, uncomfortable, and accountable. Most people would rather live in quiet ruin than face that moment of truth, because truth demands change, and change demands sacrifice. Responsibility begins the moment you stop saying, "This is just how I am," and start saying, "This is what I have allowed." Your life did not drift into chaos by accident. Habits were formed, boundaries were crossed, warnings were ignored, time was wasted, discipline was postponed. Responsibility is not about condemning yourself endlessly. It is about owning your role without softening the facts. Until you do that, rebuilding is impossible, because you will keep repairing symptoms while protecting the disease. Destruction is painful because it requires you to let go of things that once felt like survival. Some of the habits that are destroying you once comforted you. Some of the relationships that are holding you back once made you feel accepted. Some of the excuses you repeat once helped you cope with fear and insecurity. But what once protected you may now be poisoning you. Honest destruction means recognizing when something that once helped you has become the very thing that keeps you broken. You must be willing to tear down false identities, the identity of being misunderstood, the identity of being the one who always struggles, the identity of being damaged beyond repair. These labels may feel honest, but they often become prisons. When you cling to them, you excuse stagnation. You begin to wear your brokenness like a badge, and responsibility feels like a threat because it would require you to change the story you tell about yourself. Rebuilding also requires the destruction of comfort. Comfort is not neutral. Prolonged comfort without discipline breeds decay. When you constantly choose what feels good over what is right, you slowly weaken your ability to choose at all. Responsibility demands that you do not obey your impulses blindly. It demands restraint, structure, and the humility to accept limits. A man or woman who cannot say no to themselves cannot rebuild anything of value. There is also the destruction of fantasy. Fantasy tells you that one breakthrough moment will fix everything, that one decision, one speech, 1 year will suddenly transform your life without sustained effort. Responsibility kills fantasy. It replaces it with daily obedience, slow progress, and unglamorous consistency. Rebuilding is not dramatic most days. It is quiet. It is repetitive. It is choosing the same hard thing again and again when no one is watching and no one is praising you. Honest destruction forces you to examine how you spend your time. Time is not neutral either. It either builds you or erodes you. Responsibility means you stop pretending that hours wasted scrolling, distracting yourself, or numbing your mind have no cost. Every wasted hour is a brick removed from your future. You cannot rebuild a life while bleeding time and calling it rest. Rest restores strength. Escapism steals it. You must also destroy the habit of blaming circumstances. Circumstances influence you, but they do not control you. Many people remain stuck because they believe their environment has more power than their decisions. Responsibility says, I may not control what happens to me, but I control how I respond. This is not cruel realism. It is liberating truth. The moment you accept responsibility, you regain agency. You are no longer trapped by the past. You are accountable for the present. There will be resistance within you when you begin this process. Your pride will argue, your fear will whisper, your comfort will protest. You will feel tired before you begin. You will feel overwhelmed by how much needs to change. This is why honest destruction must come before rebuilding. You must decide that the cost of staying the same is greater than the cost of change. Until that decision is settled, you will keep rebuilding halfway and quitting when it hurts. Responsibility also means seeking truth instead of affirmation. Affirmation tells you that you are fine as you are. Truth tells you that you can be better and must be better. Rebuilding requires instruction, correction, and often rebuke. You need voices in your life that care more about your growth than your comfort. If you surround yourself only with people who never challenge you, you are not rebuilding, you are reinforcing weakness. As the old structures come down, you will feel exposed. There will be moments when you wonder who you are without your old habits, old patterns, old defenses. This vulnerability is not failure. It is the foundation being laid. Responsibility means you do not rush to fill the emptiness with something familiar just to escape discomfort. You allow space for something stronger to be built. Honest destruction includes discipline of the mind. You cannot rebuild externally while your internal world remains chaotic. Responsibility requires guarding what you think about, what you dwell on, what you allow to shape your desires. Thoughts repeated become beliefs. Beliefs acted upon become lives. If your mind is constantly fed fear, lust, resentment, or entitlement, responsibility demands that you cut off those sources without negotiation. There is also responsibility in perseverance. Many people start rebuilding with intensity but quit when progress feels slow. Honest responsibility does not demand immediate results. It demands faithfulness. It accepts that rebuilding takes time because damage happened over time. You did not arrive here overnight, and you will not leave overnight. Responsibility means committing to the process, even when enthusiasm fades. You will fall during rebuilding, you will stumble, old habits will resurface. Responsibility does not mean pretending this will not happen. It means responding correctly when it does, not hiding, not justifying, not quitting. Responsibility says, I failed, and I will correct it. It turns failure into instruction instead of identity. True rebuilding also requires destroying the belief that someone else will save you. Help is valuable, guidance is necessary, but no one can live your life for you. Responsibility means you stop waiting for rescue and start acting in obedience to what you already know is right. You already know many of the things you need to stop. You already know many of the things you need to start. Responsibility is doing them without waiting for perfect conditions. As the old structure is dismantled, you begin to see clearly what actually matters. Much of what you chased was never essential. Much of what you feared never had real power. Responsibility sharpens your focus. It removes distractions. It simplifies your life around truth and duty rather than impulse and emotion. This kind of rebuilding produces humility. When you accept responsibility, you stop seeing yourself as superior to others and stop seeing yourself as hopeless. You see yourself as accountable. This is a strong place to stand. It allows growth without arrogance and repentance without despair. In the end, honest destruction and responsibility are not enemies of hope. They are its foundation. Hope built on denial collapses. Hope built on responsibility endures. When you take responsibility, you stop drifting. When you destroy what is false, you make room for what is real. Brick by brick, choice by choice, discipline by discipline, a life can be rebuilt not by pretending the damage was small, but by facing it fully and refusing to live under its rule any longer. Discipline and obedience, not motivation or feelings, create lasting change, and this truth stands in direct opposition to everything modern thinking celebrates. You have been taught to wait until you feel ready, inspired, confident, or energized before you act. You have been told that passion is the engine of progress and that when passion fades, progress must stop. This belief has quietly ruined countless lives, because feelings are unstable, inconsistent, and unreliable masters. They rise and fall without warning, and they demand obedience while offering no loyalty in return. Feelings are excellent servants but cruel rulers. They promise strength but abandon you at the first sign of difficulty. You feel motivated when circumstances are favorable, when progress is visible, when comfort is intact. But the moment resistance appears, motivation evaporates. If your life is built on feelings, then your obedience to what is right will always be temporary. Lasting change demands something firmer than emotion. It demands discipline, the settled decision to act according to truth regardless of how you feel. Discipline is not punishment, it is training. It is the deliberate shaping of your behavior so that your actions no longer depend on your moods. Discipline says, "This must be done," even when every part of you resists. It does not argue with fatigue, negotiate with fear, or consult comfort. It moves forward because it has been commanded by conviction, not emotion. Without discipline, even the strongest desires decay into intentions that never materialize. Obedience is closely tied to discipline, but it goes deeper. Discipline is the structure. Obedience is the surrender of your will to what is right. Obedience acknowledges that truth exists outside of your preferences. It recognizes that you are not the final authority on what should be done. This is where many people stumble. They want discipline when it benefits them, but they resist obedience because obedience demands humility. It requires you to submit your impulses, opinions, and instincts to a higher standard. You will never feel your way into a transformed life. Feelings follow action, not the other way around. Strength comes after obedience, not before it. Confidence grows as a result of disciplined effort, not as a prerequisite for it. Waiting to feel ready is simply another form of delay disguised as wisdom. The disciplined person acts while afraid. The obedient person moves forward while uncertain. This is why they grow while others remain stuck. Daily life exposes the weakness of motivation. You wake up tired, your body protests, your mind searches for excuses. Motivation whispers that rest is deserved, that tomorrow will be better, that skipping once will not matter. Discipline answers without debate. It understands that small compromises repeated over time dismantle character. Obedience refuses to bargain with impulse. It executes what has already been decided. Lasting change is forged in repetition. Not in rare moments of inspiration, but in the quiet, uncelebrated consistency of obedience. Discipline forms habits, and habits shape identity. What you repeatedly do becomes who you are. Feelings cannot sustain repetition. Only discipline can. Only obedience can carry you through monotony, boredom, resistance, and delay. There will be days when obedience feels mechanical and dry. Days when discipline feels heavy and unrewarding. This is where the false narrative of motivation collapses. People assume that if something is right, it should feel good. That assumption is false. Many of the most important actions in life feel uncomfortable, inconvenient, and costly in the moment. Discipline does not demand immediate reward. It trusts the process. Obedience does not require emotional confirmation. It rests in truth. Your feelings are shaped by your environment, your sleep, your diet, your stress, your past experiences. To hand them authority over your actions is to surrender your future to variables you cannot fully control. Discipline removes that vulnerability. It anchors your behavior in decision rather than impulse. Obedience anchors your will in truth rather than desire. People often misunderstand discipline as rigidity, but true discipline produces freedom. The undisciplined person is constantly reacting, constantly distracted, constantly enslaved to urges. The disciplined person is free to act intentionally. Obedience frees you from the tyranny of self. It releases you from the endless cycle of wanting and regretting. It allows progress even when emotion is absent. Change that lasts is slow and often invisible at first. This is why motivation-driven efforts fail. Motivation wants visible results quickly. Discipline is content with unseen growth. Obedience continues even when progress is difficult to measure. This patience is not weakness, it is strength under control. There is also a refining effect in obedience that feelings can never produce. Obedience exposes your resistance. It reveals how deeply you rely on comfort. Every time you obey when you do not want to, you weaken the grip of self-indulgence. Every disciplined action trains your will to submit rather than dominate. Over time, this reshapes your character at a level that emotional enthusiasm never reaches. Many people begin with great intensity and collapse under pressure because they were fueled by emotion rather than commitment. Emotion burns hot but briefly, discipline burns steadily, obedience endures. When trials come, when life becomes unfair, when progress slows, discipline keeps moving. Obedience remains faithful when emotion demands retreat. You do not need to feel discipline to practice discipline. You do not need to feel obedient to obey. These are actions, not moods. Waiting to feel different before acting differently reverses the order of growth. Action precedes transformation. Discipline comes first. Desire follows. Obedience comes first. Understanding deepens later. Discipline also teaches you to govern your inner life. Thoughts, like feelings, wander easily. Left unchecked, they justify laziness, resentment, indulgence, and fear. Discipline trains the mind to reject lies and focus on what is necessary. Obedience trains the heart to submit even when the mind protests. This internal alignment creates stability that emotional living can never provide. There will be moments when obedience feels like loss, when discipline feels like deprivation. You will watch others choose ease and appear unharmed. Feelings will accuse you of missing out. Discipline sees beyond the moment. Obedience measures outcomes in years, not hours. It understands that comfort now often demands payment later. Lasting change is not built by intensity, but by integrity. Integrity is the alignment of belief and action, regardless of observation. Discipline enforces integrity when no one is watching. Obedience sustains it when recognition is absent. This is why disciplined, obedient lives often appear unimpressive at first, but prove unshakable over time. You cannot negotiate with discipline. The moment you allow exceptions to be ruled by feelings, discipline erodes. Obedience must be decisive. Partial obedience is delayed disobedience. Feelings will always argue for delay. Discipline answers with action. As discipline shapes your habits and obedience shapes your will, something unexpected happens. Feelings begin to change. Motivation becomes steadier, not because it is pursued, but because it is no longer required. Confidence grows quietly. Peace settles deeply, not because life becomes easy, but because your response to life becomes stable. The disciplined, obedient person does not live reactively. They do not rise and fall with circumstance. They are not ruled by enthusiasm or crushed by discouragement. They move forward steadily, guided by conviction rather than impulse. This steadiness is rare, and it is powerful. Every lasting transformation in history has been carried forward by disciplined obedience, not emotional excitement. Movements built on passion collapse when passion fades. Lives built on discipline endure when emotion fails. This is not glamorous, and it is not comfortable, but it is real. If you continue to wait for motivation, you will continue to wait indefinitely. If you submit to discipline and obedience, change will come whether you feel ready or not. The path is not mysterious. It is difficult, repetitive, and demanding. But it works because truth does not require your feelings to function, and discipline does not need your permission to shape your life.